Welcome, ladies, to Looking Up. This is a podcast for Christian women. And today I'm joined with Carla Moore, your host, and I'm Kathy Pollard. And we're going to be talking about, I think, a really interesting topic, something that I enjoy talking about and participating in. And before we get to that, I just want to go ahead and say on the front end of this podcast, if you listen to the end, we are going to share an easy summer recipe for entertaining. And also our random question is really something that one of our listeners asked for. So hopefully you'll be able to listen to the end. We are so thankful for every time that you join us and listen in. For those of you who visit our Looking Up group on Facebook and interact with us, that's so much fun. But before we get into our topic, Carla, I know you have things to share, but I want to hear about this ice cream social that you've planned.
Oh, it was fun, but it was so hot. It was
perfect
so hot.
For ice cream.
Yeah, well, except that there was only actually two of us that made homemade ice cream, and the rest were mostly Bluebell, which is fine with me. But they were in, the little cardboard cartons, which they sat. And I mean, we went through the line fast because I knew the longer we sat, or the longer it sat on the table, the more it would melt. But it was fun, and by the end of the line, we just needed a straw to just stick into the cartons of ice cream and just drink it down. It was more like cream than ice cream.
Milkshake.
But it was fun.
Milkshake social.
Yeah, or cream social, not ice cream, but cream social.
So you had it on your deck?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then we had quite a few kids. John wanted to take the slide down because he thought it would make kids, be running back and forth across the deck, but I didn't want to. I thought that's part of the fun, to have the slide up. So we moved the table away from the slide so that they could get to it, but then people ended up sitting in front of it. So kids were still getting in the way, but it was fun. I mean, everybody expects that to happen. And we had, I don't know, maybe 10 kiddos, and I never did count. Preacher count is always more than what is real. We probably had 50. So it was it was good for a Sunday night that's hot and people knew they were going to be outside. They didn't stay too long. There's mosquitoes and just the heat. We had a fan going, but it's just hot. Yeah. So we were talking about when we were kids. Do you remember even noticing the heat?
No,
I don't either. We'd play out from early in the morning until after dark. And I just don't remember. It was just hot, but I don't remember anything about ever being too hot to play outside.
Yeah. So you did it Sunday night after church.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fun.
And I was going to text you a picture of these tablecloths that I found on Amazon. They were so cool. It's kind of that oilcloth type stuff that you can wipe like with flannel backed tablecloth, but they had elastic on the corners. So it didn't hang down over the table, but it hooked on each corner. So it didn't move and it didn't blow off. And, it had fun colors. Usually I don't like those things. They're kind of cheesy looking, but I found a green checked, just kind of a green gingham looking summery kind of thing. Cute. So I'll send you a picture. I'll put it in the group next week. They were cheap on Amazon. Yeah.
And how perfect for ice cream. Easy to clean up.
We just hosed them down, and we left them out on the driveway overnight, Sunday night, but Monday morning hosed them down. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, and that's going to play so well into today's topic.
Hospitality.
That's right. And so have you been thrifting?
I did a little bit. I haven't had a lot of time, but I did find this. If you are watching, friends, it's a vintage Dooney and Burke, which I
love
didn't
it.
Well, I mean, it's a tiny, I don't do tiny purses. It's not tiny, it's small, but apparently this is a high dollar vintage style. Some vintage things come back in. Not high dollar, but I texted my niece, who's the thrifting queen, and she said, buy it. And she sent me a screenshot of some eBay completed sales in Poshmark for like $125, $130. So I paid $7 for it. So we'll see. I need to clean it up, get some leather conditioner and spiff it up. But,
so you're not going to keep it. You're going to turn around and sell it.
I'm going to sell it. Yeah. That's not one I would use. It's just too small.
I can see that with a cute pair of jeans.
Yeah.
Some boots.
I'll send it to you if you want it.
Not for $120.
If it doesn't sell, I'll send it to you for free. We'll see. So I did that. I found a pair of boots, men's boots that were high dollar to begin with, but you have to find some like the name of the style, and to be able to when you put the title of your listing, because a lot of people are looking for very specific items. So I know that obviously the maker of the boot, but I don't know the style. I just have to do some research before I can list them. But they were like, I think $600 boots to begin with.
Whoa.
Of course, they're used. They're not worth nearly that much. But if I paid $10 and can make $100, I think that's a good deal.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very fun.
Well, what about things on the homestead? What's new?
Well, I'll share a negative thing and a positive thing.
Okay.
A negative thing is I made sourdough bagels.
How's that negative?
Well, because my sourdough is hit or miss. I just cannot figure it out, to where I'm confident in it. Like I will probably never do sourdough for company because who knows if it'll turn out.
What do you mean? What would be bad about it? Is it not rise, or it doesn't taste good, or what? I don't understand what you mean.
It's the texture. It's the bagels looked great. And I did sesame seed bagels. So they looked wonderful, but they're too dense on the inside. They're too dense. They're slightly, I wouldn't say gummy, but
I like them chewy.
Well, this is beyond chewy. The texture is just off. And that's my issue with sourdough, is sometimes it just turns out too dense. And I can always tell, like when you're doing regular bagels and you drop them in the water, they tend to float. They might sink for a second, but they'll come right back up and float. And it's really easy to flip them. Well, these went straight to the bottom and stayed down there. And then when I lifted them out, I could tell that they were heavier than they were supposed to be, so I was like, great. And when you look it up, this is the frustrating thing. So if you are a sourdough person out there, anybody, help me. When you look it up, why is my sourdough dense, or whatever, it'll say, well, it's really easy to fix. You either overproofed it or you underproofed it, or you've used too much liquid, or you've not used enough liquid. It's stuff like that. So I'm like, no, I just want you to say, what's this one thing that I need to fix? So I don't know if I need to proof it longer or proof it less, or
do you keep notes, like, so if you made it, it was good and this is what I did? No,
I don't. And part of the problem, I think, is because I'm keeping mine in the refrigerator, because I don't make bread every other day. It's more like a once a week kind of a thing. And so I keep mine in the refrigerator so that I don't have to keep feeding the sourdough starter, and I don't have to keep discarding it and all that. You only have to feed it about once a week. And so it works better with my baking schedule, but I think it's also harder to work with if you're keeping it in the refrigerator. So I told Neil this morning, I think I'm going to have to just take the plunge, put this thing on the counter, invest the time and the flour into feeding it and baking more, just so I can figure it out, because it's so frustrating. So anyway, it looks really pretty. I've got this glass cake stand, pedestal cake stand, and I've got my little bagels out there, and it looks great, but looks are deceiving, because I would never serve those things. We're eating them. We're still eating them.
Yeah.
But
well, you're pretty particular about what you serve. I would think you cut them in half and toast them, and they'd be great for anything.
I am. I'm cutting them half and toasting them, but they're still just too dense. They're just heavy and dense. So
it made me think about, in my refrigerator right now, I have some muffin mix. It's one of those oatmeal. No, it's Raisin Bran muffins. Have you ever made those? You can mix them up and then keep the mix in the fridge and just make them as you go.
Oh,
well, they're supposed to keep for a while. And I made these back for Focal Point. So May the 5th, something like that.
So you have sour bran muffins.
Yes. And it's sitting in the back of my refrigerator staring at me every time I open the door. And I don't want to open it, because you talk about sourdough. I'm sure, it's one of those things I'm tempted to throw the whole thing away, but it's a really good Tupperware measuring cup that it's sitting in. So maybe that's one of the things I'll ask John to take care of for me.
So it's starting to look like a science experiment. Is this what you're saying?
There's a layer. Anyway, I'll spare you. It looks like oil on top. So it maybe. Anyway, so what's your positive thing?
So I've never heard of a muffin recipe that you can do that with. I've heard of bread recipes that you can keep in the fridge and just pull off like a loaf of bread. You can just pull off what you need and make small loaves, but I've never heard of that with muffins. I'm so intrigued.
Well, it is a good recipe. It's just made with raisin bran and buttermilk. And so it makes a ton. Like you can make 2 dozen and then have 2 more dozen sitting in the container in the fridge. And the recipe says it keeps for up to 6 weeks. So it's been 2.5 months. Yeah. I haven't ever tried it. I haven't ever tried it that long. Well, apparently I've tried it this time, but I'm not going to make any more out of it. It looks gross, but yeah. And they're good. They're not healthy. I mean, they're bran.
They've got bran in them and they're not healthy.
Define healthy. Like there's lots of sugar and I think there's honey in them. So they're very sweet and very dense.
What's the fat in it?
Some kind of oil. I can't remember what kind of oil. Maybe just vegetable oil. But anyway, I'll send you the recipe. And they're good for breakfast, but they're also they're not any kind of calorie counting person's friend. So
okay. Yeah.
Okay, what's your positive?
You can share that in the group also.
Yeah.
All right. So positively on the homestead, you remember that bounty table that I put together back in the fall or winter? I don't remember. But when I first did that, I kept thinking, I just can't wait till summer when it's got all the garden bounty on it. And we are there. And so in the mornings, our basket is just filled with even more variety because now we have carrots and bell peppers and, green beans and tomatoes and we still have asparagus coming in, which surprises me because that's more of a spring crop. But so, and all the herbs. So I've got all that arranged now on the bounty table. And I just stood there this morning and looked at it. I cut some flowers and I just looked at it and I was like, this is what I was waiting for. Huh?
I see it behind you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can see that. So anyway, that's one thing. And then the other good thing I wanted to share was that we finally finished our home library that we've been trying to get organized. So we moved everything around the furniture and we moved the bookcases around the way we wanted them. The only thing I haven't done is paint, which I'll never do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the way it's set up, and Neil very painstakingly organized his books. And I thought he would, I was thinking do like World War I here and World War II here and European history here. And then
you are going detailed.
And then just organize them by, the height of the books for aesthetic things. Well, he didn't want to do that. He wanted to very specifically timeline, even in each section, organize them.
Oh, wow.
So I walked over there and I'm kind of looking at it and I'm thinking, oh, can we move these books around? Can I put this on this part of the show? He's like, no. It took me forever to put these in chronological order. And I'm like twitching because I'm going,
they're like this.
It doesn't look good. Yeah.
Oh, great.
High, low, high, fat, big, high, low, just I'm like, okay. But we love it. We just, as often as we can, we'll go up there and relax. And I took we had ladies Bible class over here Tuesday night. I even took some ladies up there and I was like, oh, you want to come see our library?
It's your little oasis in your house.
Yes. But the painting thing, you know how people do that thing. If you had $1 million, what would you do? Or if you were wealthy, what would you do? And blah, blah, blah.
Someone.
Mine is in a heartbeat, I would pay somebody to paint my entire house, paint my kitchen cabinets. I have all these things I really want. And I know it will never happen because I just detest it so
expensive.
Much. Well,
but it is one of those things.
I know.
It is one of those things that's worth it. I mean, we got ours done because insurance paid for it, but because inevitably you don't finish it. Or, it goes onto the ceiling when you're trying to make a nice straight line or the main thing for us is we don't finish it. Yeah. Because you have to clean up and then take it back out and it's not a good day for that, or I'm sick of doing it. And it's not fun.
I know. We had when we moved here, we paid somebody to paint the house in Colorado. It was very expensive.
Yeah.
And so then when we got here, I was thinking, oh, well, we'll just pay somebody to paint this house. And Neil's like, no, we are not.
Well, for what it's worth, and I've been there several times, it doesn't look like it needs it. I mean, I know when you live somewhere, you know where all the spots are and you know where the bumps and things are. So, but it looks nice.
Thanks. I just wanted certain colors. I have a vision of what I want it to look like, but I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. Painting makes me grouchy.
Yeah. I get it. Me too.
There are these weird people that enjoy it. My sister's one of them. Cheryl Turner's one of them.
Well, why don't you get Cheryl and Christy to come to your house and paint your house, and you'll cook for them, and you'll milk the cow for them.
I don't think they'll drink it.
Okay, well, you'll make some butter for them.
Yeah.
It's funny you said something about your harvest.
I need to do a GoFundMe.
My daughter-in-law, Alyssa. Good luck with that. Paint my house. We'll cook for paint. Yeah. Anyway,
Okay,
my daughter-in-law, she sent me a picture of something. She said, you need to get this for Kathy. Next time you need to get her a gift. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it has to do with your harvest table. So, and it was so sweet because it was exactly something that you would like. And she noticed it and took a screenshot and sent it to me.
Oh, that is sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Next May.
Well, your birthday's a long way off, so it's gonna be a while. Maybe next harvest. Have you ever used this stuff called the Downy Wrinkle Release? I feel like I'm doing a Vanna White thing.
No.
I was just going to tell you that this is my new favorite thing. I know we're not doing a favorite thing episode, but this will save you from ironing. And I don't like to iron.
Oh, so it's not.
I mean, it depends on how.
It's just
instead of ironing. I did it on this blouse. I mean, it's denim. I did use my curling iron on this part right here, but I mean, have you not ever done that? If you have a straightener, you can just iron your collar with your straightener or your curling iron.
You're so smart. I never would have thought it. I'm not good at thinking outside the box with things.
Oh, I just don't like to iron, and we can't leave it up because a lot of different reasons we don't leave it up. But this stuff, I've used it like 5 or 6 times now in the last couple of weeks, and I just don't like to iron. So you just spray it and it makes all the wrinkles kind of relax. It's not perfect. I mean, you can see my shirt is not perfect, but it really does the trick on, like, if you're wearing linen, which doesn't stay ironed anyway, it just relaxes all of the fibers somehow.
So do you, and
it makes it smell good.
Do you keep that in your purse? And if the wrinkle pops back up on your linen shirt, you just.
Let's see if I can fit this in this.
Yeah, it won't fit in that one. Oh, it will fit in that one.
Can't take anything else, but it fits in that purse.
Well, we did try that little trick the other day where you throw something in the dryer with an ice cube. Have you heard about that? And it actually worked. It was a shirt that he was changing really quick. I was still getting ready. I said, throw it in the dryer with an ice cube. See if that works. It did. It worked.
Did it make noises like ka-clunk, ka-clunk, clunk?
No.
Until it dried?
And it only took a couple of minutes. It didn't take long at all. He just pulled it back out and the wrinkles were gone.
Yeah. I've done that more, I guess, with like a wet piece of, like a bath rag or something. I wet it down and toss it in, and just having something wet, steamy in there with it helps. Anyway, did you buy anything yesterday on Prime, Amazon Prime?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I got this watch.
You've already got it?
It came in. I bought mine 2 days ago. It came the very next day.
Nice.
And there were a few things that we bought. Some more outdoor lights. I think Neil got some cologne and some K-cups.
Nice.
How about you?
Yeah. I got a kettle, an electric kettle. I couldn't find your exact one. And it was literally 11:51 p.m. last night. And so I didn't have time to go searching.
Into the wire.
I did. I didn't have time to go searching for the one that you had shown me, but it's an electric one. It's not that fun green, but it's a matte black, and I like that too. So I got that for a pretty good deal. It's funny because you can tell our age, because most of what I found was like arthritis Tylenol and magnesium and CoQ10 and not fun stuff, but I got a few things like that. But it was fun to look around. It was fun to see people's posts yesterday on social media about what are the good deals. So
I should have gone back to that favorite things episode because I didn't think about that. I know there's some things that you mentioned that I still haven't picked up that I want to. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Rats.
Oh, well.
It
was probably a big racket anyway.
I'm content with what we
Me too.
Yeah. We actually got the solar outdoor lights this time instead of the kind you had to plug in. So
like deck lights?
They look like those, Edison bulbs like we had before, except these are solar. So
do you not have to plug them in at all? Oh, that's smart.
There's a solar panel that you set either on your deck or in the ground. And then when it gets dark outside, the lights automatically come on.
And how long do they stay on?
It says 8 hours.
What if you don't want them on?
I don't know about
Out of luck.
I don't know about that.
I don't know that. I'm trying to think if there would be a time when I wouldn't want them on, but I mean, we have 3 sets plugged into one plug. So every time I plug them in, I'm holding my breath like it's going to short out the whole neighborhood. But
well, we're having issues with our outlet, and I think that's why, because we have multiple sets plugged into that one outlet by the front door.
Yeah.
And we just a few months ago, we had to change it out, and we did that, and now it's messed up again. And I think it's because of what we're running on it. So that's why we're switching to the solar.
Well, I may need a link to that, because once these are out, I might need, I don't know. We have some solar lights like that you stick into the ground. We have some around the little garden in the front, but it's such a smart idea. You don't have to worry about the plug.
All right. Anything else before we get into our topic?
I was going to tell you about, we went to the Salt Lick with Brian and Shannon this weekend.
I know. I told Neil. He was so jealous.
Oh, that's right. I told you about it already. Okay. Well, it was.
No, go ahead. Sorry. Tell me again.
I forget what I've already told you. It was good. You like potato salad.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about some, like mustard or I'm kind of picky about mayonnaise. I like Duke's mayonnaise the best.
Yeah, I should say I don't like any store-bought potato salad.
Yeah. Well, they make a potato salad that it's kind of like, I remember Mom having a recipe when I was growing up that she called German potato salad. It was warm and kind of vinegary.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it when I was a kid, but I do now. But their potato salad is, they put their sauce in it. And if you remember, the sauce is what I like the best about Salt Lick.
Interesting. That sounds good.
Yeah. It's a neat story about the Salt Lick, how it came to be. It was a man that went to, I want to say it was a Korean War, but he married a woman and brought her back. I think she was Japanese. I know it was the Korean War and she was Japanese, but anyway, he brought her back. And so it's just kind of a twist on some of the recipes that they have. And the barbecue sauce has anchovies in it. It's just kind of a different thing. We normally don't tell people until after they've already eaten it and like it, because there's black specks in it. You think it's pepper, little tiny black specks, but it's anchovies. And I just really, I love the sauce, and you put it on everything, but they have it in the potato salad. It's just potatoes and there's onions in there and sauce and other things, I'm sure, but I really do like
Is there bacon in it?
Salad. I don't think so. Okay. There is in Mom's German potato salad.
Yeah.
And has more vinegar taste to it. But the Salt Lake is one of those places that's kind of iconic in the area. It has 2 big open air pits. And so you can go stand by the pit, take your picture, and they have a family style where it's expensive to do family style, but they'll just keep bringing you food. Of course, Brian did that. He can, he's younger and he can eat you under the table sometimes. But anyway, it was fun. It was good.
And a couple of Food Network stars have listed that as one of their favorite places. Bobby Flay and who's that Duff guy?
I don't know.
The cake guy, Duff somebody. Anyway.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It smells good. You can smell it as soon as you pull up. It smells so good.
Well, they have t-shirts that say that you can buy, and they say you can smell our pits for miles away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, last time you mention that show Alone while we were recording, or that was before we were recording?
It was on the show.
Okay, good. Well, then I'll tell you on the show. We are so hooked.
Yeah, sorry.
We started watching. Remember, I asked you, I was like, where do you watch this show? We started watching it. We've already watched the entire first season.
Yeah.
I loved how it ended. It was awesome. And
I can't remember which one was the first. I'll go back.
I'm not going to say, because I don't want to give anything away in case somebody starts watching it, but it's really well done. It's very interesting. And then we started the second season, but it was in the same location. And like the first 4 individuals that they introduced us to, we really didn't like. So we actually skipped that one. And now we're in the 3rd season, which is in Patagonia.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's really good. So just Thanks for that.
Yeah. I can't remember which season, but they do one that's couples, and it's not necessarily
Oh.
male, female couples or husband, wife. It's like brothers or father, son. And we liked that season a lot, but the premise of that one is they drop them off at different points and then they have to find each other.
Oh, okay.
And then they spend the rest of the season trying to survive. So,
that really would change it, because one of the biggest challenges they face is isolation.
Right.
And all of them, it just kind of makes them go crazy.
Yeah. If I remember right,
really contemplative, and
it takes them a while to find each other, like a week.
Oh.
Because you're going through real dense forest, and seems like, it's been more than a year probably since I watched that one, but like half of the couple, one of them stayed wherever they dropped them and began the shelter. The other one has to find them. Okay. But it's really neat when they find each other, they're just so glad to see each other.
Oh, that sounds good.
It is a good series.
All right. I didn't pay attention to what time we started. Did you?
Oh, I didn't set a timer either.
Rats.
Whoops.
Okay. So anyway, I'll look now.
Okay.
All right. Now, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So we're going to talk about pursuing hospitality. And I wanted to bring up this phrase that I ran across. And the reason I thought about doing this one is I actually came across this idea for entertaining people in your home because I've created a Pinterest board called hospitality, because I ran across an idea that I thought was really cute, something you could do when you have people over. And you know how on Pinterest, when you save something, then a bunch more things like that show up in your Pinterest feed. And so that's what started happening. And I started seeing all of these really cute ideas or good ideas of things to make or do when people come over. And so I created that board. Well, one of the things I ran across was actually a book, and I don't have it. I've never read it. I don't know anything about it. I just loved the name of it. And it was called, I know I wrote that down in here somewhere. Hang on just a second. It's called How to Be a Gatherer of People. Nope, that's not it. That's the article. The book is called, all right, here's the book title. I'm ready now.
Okay.
Dinner Changes Everything. Menus to Create Connection.
Cool.
And I just got hung up on that because dinner changes everything. Menus to create connection. And I thought that is so true. And it just really, really makes a big difference when you have somebody in your home or you're in somebody else's home. It just changes your relationship. Yeah. And it seems to me, if it's somebody from church that maybe you haven't spent a lot of time with, the next time you see them in the building, it's just different. You smile at each other a little differently. Your eyes light up a little bit differently. There's just something special about getting in each other's homes. And I think it even goes beyond going out with people. Going out with people somewhere is still good. You're still spending time together outside the building and fellowshipping together. But I don't know. It's just not the same. And I think when you have somebody in your home or you go into somebody's home, you're really inviting them into your personal life, your personal space, and welcoming them into being a part of your life. And I also think that you're also showing a little bit of vulnerability because going out to eat is such a neutral space and everybody can just order what they want. You can leave what you, but having somebody into your home, you want it to look nice and you hope the food's okay. And, there are all these things that we can kind of put on ourselves, a little bit of pressure on ourselves. And it just makes you a little bit vulnerable. You want them to have a good time. You want them to feel welcome. You want them to want to come back. Yeah. So there's just something extra special about opening up your life that way. And I think you just create these connections. And it's not even about what you eat or what your house looks like or what the table looks like. It's really not about any of that. It's just opening up your home to people and inviting them in. Yeah,
exactly. I've mentioned this article before, the one that Laura Warnes wrote, that's called Hospitality is Not About Me. And it is so true. It's not about making your home a showplace so that you can impress someone when they come in. But hospitality, the heart of it is serving others and making people feel comfortable and welcome and at ease. And so it's just, to me, that we have to get over, if we can, do our best to get over that whole thing about trying to make everything perfect and impress someone. Because when you really think about it, why do we try to impress someone?
Pride.
It's pride. Yeah. And it just doesn't help the other person, because if they're impressed, a lot of times they'll admire you, which is fine. But have you done anything to put the spotlight on them and away from yourself? It's kind of like shining the light on yourself. And I don't want to sound too harsh about that, because I know we just want to welcome people and we want them to think that we live in a nice, clean place. We don't want to give the wrong impression of just being a slob or whatever. But again, hospitality is not about me. It's about you when you come into my home. And once we get that into our heads, I think it just really helps just to get past the being afraid to open up and invite people in. But it takes a while.
It does. And that's so true. It's really, what's your focus on? And if your focus is on that other person, it changes why you're cleaning. You just want them to be comfortable and enjoy their time there. Why you're serving what you're serving, what's going to make them feel good and fed and nourished, and what's going to make them feel welcome and happy there. Not look at what I can do. Look at how impressive this spread is, or look how fancy this tablescape is, or so if that's the focus, people are going to pick up on that. When they might, like you said, they might be impressed, but it's not necessarily going to make them feel welcome or special or comfortable.
Yeah. What will they go home with? Will they go home with this vision of, oh, they had the nicest table and it was so pretty, which is, I like, people leaving my house and thinking it was really nice. But what I really want people to go home from my house is just warm memories, and knowing that they were welcome in my home, and that I wanted to do what I could to make them comfortable and feel served. So hopefully that's what hospitality is about. Not just that, but to me, that's what I think of.
Do you have any special memories of being in someone's home?
Yeah. I was thinking about some of these things. One that really kind of comes to my mind a lot was a place when we were young marrieds and when our kids were little, and it was at Marvin and Lemma Knight's home. He was one of the elders in San Marcos, and she was about this big around, teeny tiny little woman, and she was the best cook. She had a cookbook collection. I don't know, she had thousands, like tens of thousands of cookbooks.
Wow.
And they built shelves around, every wall had shelves and shelves of cookbooks, but she knew where they were and she knew which ones were her favorites. And I have several of her handwritten recipes in my little recipe collection. West Texas chicken is one of them. It's basically poppy seed chicken without poppy seeds. So probably a lot of people would like the ones that don't like poppy seeds. But they also had a train set that they built that would go through their house. It went through walls. They had openings in the walls that would go through. They had the neatest setup. And I guess he was handy and was able to do stuff like that. So my kids loved going, not just because of the train, because the train was way up high. You couldn't necessarily play with it. You just watched it. But she had toys, and she made my kids feel loved. And they were little. This was back when they were babies, and we were there until, I guess, Jordan was about 6 and Jake would have been 4, something around there. So they were little kiddos. And, sometimes when you have a 4 and a 6-year-old in your home, you don't know what's going to happen.
Careful.
And so she just never made me feel like she was watching them, worried that they were going to break something or do something they shouldn't. She just made us feel comfortable. She made us the just wonderful food. And I have good memories of that. So that was one of the people that I thought of. What about you?
Well, I was thinking back to my formative years as a young wife, and some of the early times we were in somebody's home. And the first person that came to my mind was Barbara Ellerby. I talked about her. I had a blog briefly called My Homestead Pantry, and I shared this mac and cheese recipe on there. And I talked about her because she was the first person that made that for me. But she and her family had us into their home all the time.
Mm.
All the time. It was just a real consistent thing. And every time she did, I felt like the food was always good. It wasn't fancy. It was simple and delicious. And it was always, always good. And there are so many dishes that she made that I still to this day continue to make. You know, I make her corn chowder and just hers was the first home that I ever had real butter in. She put a stick of real butter on the table. And, you know, I grew up with tub butter.
Or oleo margarine.
Yeah. And we were using that at the time, you know, but just that consistent, and it was when she would welcome you in the home, it was just a real soft, quiet welcome, you know, come in, come to the table, have a drink, you know, here's this good food. We would just sit around and chat and visit for a while and go home. And it was just wonderful. And then the other one was just a few years ago, and it was when we were in Dripping Springs. And Neil and I.
Who you're going to say?
Who am I going to say?
I think you're going to say the Fry Singers.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, who?
Yeah. I almost hesitate to say because I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was Anita Mertz.
Oh, that's John's sister.
But yes, while we were there, so we were in Dripping Springs, Neil held a meeting and I did the ladies' day. And while we were there, a lot of your members had us into their home, and which was great. But this particular meal was just one of those things that everything that she made was so good. I wanted the recipe for all of them. And now that's how I do it. And so her home on that trip was the first time I ever had that Mississippi pot roast. You know, that one where you just put the stick of butter and it's just really, really easy, but it tastes amazing. Like it turns out so good every single time. So, and then she served green beans with pinto beans, which I'd never had before. And Neil and I both loved it. And then she made this, I'm not real sure if it was some sort of cornbread pudding or something, but it had cream corn in it.
Corn casserole, probably.
Yeah. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And then her rolls were so good. I said, I've got to have the recipe for these yeast rolls. And she started laughing and said, they're Sister Schubert's straight out of the freezer. Well, that was the first time I'd ever had those. I didn't even know there was such a thing. And so now we get those rolls often, you know, and so, but it was in this one meal, there were all these different things. And again, it was another situation where she was just real quiet, you know, real sweet and welcoming. And on that meal, I'm like, wow, this is really good. Hey, this is really good. And it just stuck. It just stuck in my mind. It's now a part of our lives. And, you know, I don't know, when I think about memories associated with being in people's homes, you can't help but smile and feel warm and feel a sense of connection. And it's just simple. And it's nothing about, like, I don't remember, in both of these cases, I don't really remember much about what their house looked like at all. I don't remember how their I don't remember the dishes that we ate off of. I don't remember anything like that. You know, I just remember how we felt when we were there and how good the food was. And I was thinking, sometimes I remember food better than I do people. Because
what does that say about you?
Not anything good. But Neil will say, do you remember meeting so-and-so? You know, and I'll go, and he'll say, you know, I held this meeting and blah, blah, blah. And I'm still going, And then he'll say, well, they had us over one night. And I'll go, oh, what did we eat?
Yeah.
You know, oh, is that the one where she made that homemade German chocolate cake? And he'll go, yes. And I'm going, now I got it. You know? So it's just impactful that way, you know, and probably not everybody gets as excited about food as I do and has that problem, but you know, it just sticks. Being in people's home, people having you in their home, it just sticks with you.
Well, I'll tell you what sticks about being in your home.
Oh.
Yeah, because I made some notes about that. I was just thinking about coming into your home. And first time was in Colorado. And you made that chicken. Is it chicken pot pie that has the eggs in it?
Yes, it's my mom and
your grandmother's. That you fixed that. And I just remember it was quiet, which is nice and calm and peaceful. And you had things pretty much ready, you know, like you're just kind of wiping your hands, like you just washed your hands and you said, sit down and we're going to eat. And it was quiet. And you just have a nice, calm not necessarily, I want to say entertaining, because you're not trying to like do a song and dance routine to entertain, but you have a knack for putting people at ease in your home. And I mean, we just always laugh, and there's always a game involved in your home. That's part of your hospitality, and that's when things get a little bit nasty.
Well, they can.
Yeah,
some
they can.
people
are a little bit
competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Rude.
Yeah, and if it's you and Neil against each other, big time. But I mean, there were several times that we were there by ourselves, but I think the first time I was in your home was for Teens in the Word. Mm. And so it was neat to see you there with all the teens there. And Michael was teaching, and you had not just the kids, but some of the parents. And I know in the beginning, it wasn't intended to include parents, but some of them naturally stayed. But anyway, you have a knack for giving people your complete attention. You put your phone away, and it's just good. And Thanks. you have the best hummus recipe I've ever had. That's one of my favorite things that you make. And you made some of it for us last time we were there, and homemade salad dressings that you make. I mean, you just have some of the best recipes. And I always look forward to eating at your home, because it's always fresh, and there's usually something that comes from your garden. And you're a foodie, so you like to fix food and good stuff. So you know hospitality, so you know what you're talking about here.
Well, you're very sweet. This is my favorite episode so far. Just kidding.
Okay.
Thank
Keep
you.
up
That's
with the compliments.
Very sweet. Well, since we're complimenting each other, I had an interesting thought about you, and I have been in your home many times also. Very beautiful. You're very welcoming, and you're very practical. You think of all the little touches, and you play music. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to come back around to that later. So remind me that I said that to you. Okay. Don't let me forget to bring this up. But one thing that I noticed is that you know how to turn an unwelcoming space into a welcoming space. So I'm thinking about the Bear Valley Lectureship this past September.
Yeah.
The ladies meet in, I forget what they call that now. I guess the fellowship hall.
Multi-purpose or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Downstairs.
Yes. Downstairs. And it's kind of, utilitarian looking, right? And a few bulletin boards. Okay. Well, I didn't want to say that.
Yeah.
And, but because it was the space where all the ladies were having their lectures, and, I've gone to lectureships there for several years, but now that you're there, you managed to transform that space, which can be so sort of cold and harsh. And you had all these little corners, like you set up the place where somebody can go get coffee, and it looked kind of sweet and country and help yourself. And you set up an area where moms with small children could go sit back there, and it was bright and colorful and fun. I wanted to go sit at that table, and I was so amazed, because I thought, how did she do that? I mean, this space is huge and big and cold, and there's probably fluorescent lighting in there. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And you just managed to transform an unwelcoming space into a welcoming space. And really, that's a big part of hospitality, is welcoming everybody in, making them feel loved, wanted, special. Come in, relax. Let's enjoy some time together.
Isn't that the meaning of hospitality? Fond of guests or loving strangers?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which I'm sure you're going to bring up later, but I thought I liked that definition, loving strangers, because a lot of times when you do it right, it's not just your friends that are coming into your home, but others. And in fact, we were talking with Brian last night about when we get back to Bear Valley, we're doing the dinner for 8. We're going to partner with them and do dinner for 8. And we were thinking about, and I'm curious what y'all, did y'all do it? Or I know you said that Stevens did it with somebody, I can't remember who you said. Do you like tell each other who you're inviting, or do you just let it be a surprise?
Well, we told each other. I imagine if you wanted to let it be a surprise, that'd be fun too, but we told each other. We did just it with the Wilcoxes. Yeah. Okay.
I was just wondering if if you try to plan to have an older couple and a younger family, or 2 younger families, or I guess you could do it either way, huh?
Yeah, you can do it either way, but we told each other ahead of time, because we never counted the children. I think I mentioned that before. It was dinner for 8 meant 8 adults. And if they had children with them, they came also, but we didn't count them in that number. But whoever's having it in their home that month would need to know.
Yeah.
how many people. So we told each other who we were inviting.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're excited to
that'll
do that
be
when we get back.
fun. Yeah. Well, I'll skip ahead to that since you brought up the love of strangers, not lover of strangers, love of strangers. Sorry.
Okay, moving right along.
All right, I'm trying
There's
to say
a lot of ways you can take that.
I'm trying to say a scripture, Carla. Anyway.
Go ahead, lover of strangers.
Stop it. All right. So 1 Peter 4:9. My eyes are watering. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling.
Mm-hmm.
And then Romans 12:13, seek to show hospitality. It's part of that whole section on how we treat each other. But you mentioned what the word literally means. And so I am no Greek scholar, but the first few letters of the Greek word are PHILO. So you can kind of see that
Love,
brotherly love word in there, but it's also has an XENIS on the end of it, which I can't.
I listened to it. I made it. Yeah.
All right.
It's
so say it.
Yeah. Now I can't remember, but it has that X sound in it. Philoxenos, something like that.
Okay. Literally.
I'm not a Greek scholar either, but I play one on TV.
Literally translated love of strangers. And the idea there was a benevolence done to outsiders that didn't have a place, needed a place, or they were traveling and they needed people to provide homes for them. And Jesus was counting on that when he sent out his disciples. You know, he was counting on people to be hospitable and take them in as they were traveling. And so that was a big part of the emphasis there. It wasn't always just about, you know, having people in your home for a meal. There was a legitimate need for people to have a place to stay and for people to be welcoming and open their home, and to do that without grumbling, you know, the inconvenience or the unexpectedness of it or whatever.
Their homes were different than ours. I read something interesting about that it was on, I found it on Bible Hub, but pulpit commentary said hospitality must have been a necessary and often a costly duty in the early ages of the church. There was no public provision for the poor. Christians traveling from place to place would find no suitable shelter except in the houses of Christians. They would be obliged to avoid the public houses of entertainment, where they would be exposed often to danger, always to temptation. Only the private houses of Christians would be safe for them. Hence the use of the, quote, letters of commendation mentioned by Paul in 2 Corinthians 3. Those who brought such letters were to be received in Christian homes. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And one of the people I think the most of with that is Denny and Kathy Petrillo open up their home, not just for dinners, but they let people stay with them for long periods of time while they get their feet under them. So I admire them so much for that.
Yes, I do. They've done that a few times. Yeah, that's good. When I was looking up that word and what it meant, it was benevolence done to those outside of one's normal circle of friends. And I feel like that is so relatable for us today, because we're all comfortable with our normal circle of friends. And maybe we need to challenge ourselves more to bring others in. And I found this, that same Cider Press Lane is who did the book Dinner Changes Everything that I mentioned earlier, Cider Press Lane. And on their website, they have an article. This is the one I mentioned earlier that I thought was the book title. It's called How to Be a Gatherer of People. And I just love the way that's worded. And I thought that's what I'm going to call this episode. Be a gatherer of people. Like and so they had these little tips on how to be a gatherer of people. And the first one was keep a list. And it was to bring people together that in many ways would be left out or forgotten. So people that you might see, people that you run across, single moms, widows, new Christians, the person that stands in the back and leaves early, you know, from church or other events. And then they said, so refer to this list anytime you're having a gathering in your home. You don't have to invite everybody on this list, but pick one to include in your gathering. And, or if you're just heading out for coffee with friends or meeting a small group for dinner, refer to that list and just pick one to join you in that, and invite them in and be a gatherer of people. And then they also said, bring people along with you to be gatherers, build an army of people that want to include others and make people feel welcome.
That's what I was thinking about that dinner for 8, is that you have a level of comfort because you're doing it with some friends, but yet, so you're comfortable with each other, but yet you are stretching out of your comfort zone and getting to know people that you don't know as well. And also I was thinking too, it doesn't have, in fact, probably shouldn't always be a couple, but pick a couple of college students or a couple of young professionals or a couple of widows or widowers, and or even, it doesn't have to be dinner for 8. It can be dinner for whatever, just call it dinner for 8. But find people who, there's just so many lonely people and they just need kind of an introduction into comfort with some other members of the church who will welcome them and make them feel at home. So I think that's just such a great idea.
Well, and for those of you, I think we've talked about that on here before, but for those of you who don't know, dinner for 8 is just an idea where you can share hospitality duties sort of in a way. Maybe you and your husband can join another couple, and each month you take turns hosting it in your home. So let's say it was both of us, doing it. Then one month it would be in my home, and we would each invite 2 other people to make up dinner for 8. Now, those people might have children, that would also come over or whatever. And we would both go in together on making the meal, only it'd be in my home. And then the next month it'd be in your home. We'd both go together, putting the meal together. We would both invite a couple of extra people to bring. And you're just sharing the hospitality duties, making it easier to have conversations because you also have friends there that are doing it with you. But also every single month, you're getting together with people that you usually don't get together with. So it's just kind of a fun way to do that.
You're widening your circle. And, you're not excluding your own friends, but you're widening your circle to include others who you might not necessarily consider friends yet. But when you do that, you make a friend and you are doing exactly what God wants you to do. And thinking about that passage, it talks about when you do it to the least of these, you're doing it for me. And not that anyone wants to be considered necessarily the least of these, and we brought that up last week talking about other things, but I think it applies here that there's just a lot of people, you and I being in ministry and being preachers' wives, pretty much everywhere we've gone, people know who we are just because they know our husbands and, he's up in front of the people. So they know our name. They know a lot of things about us that maybe we didn't tell them, but it's just kind of public knowledge. And so I forget sometimes what it's like to go into a new congregation or a new place and to not be known. And you have to be the one to kind of make yourself available. And if other people don't widen their circle, then you're just left standing on the outside. That was going to Bear Valley was different for us because we went in with the school. It wasn't necessarily as the preacher. And we still knew more people. We knew y'all. And y'all introduced us around and helped us to make friends. But it was just a different experience for me. It was good, but it was still a time that I felt, the first time in my life that I felt like I needed to maybe put myself out more than I had before. And I should have already known that, but it was really, really good for me to see it from that perspective, how I need to go now that I'm more comfortably, know people. I need to be the one to go and extend my hand to people who are new. It's sometimes hard when you are new because you don't know who's new and who's been there forever. And you don't want to walk up to someone and say, I haven't met you, or I haven't seen you around here. And they're like, I've been here for 25 years.
Yeah.
Well,
Awkward.
People shouldn't be that ugly anyway, but it was good for me to understand, sort of what we're talking about, hospitality, but just to put yourself out there, but to be welcoming to new people or people in need, or just use your brain and think who needs time and attention and love, who needs us to extend love.
Yeah. And I hadn't thought about that before with you guys, because you're like me, you grew up in a ministry home and then married a preacher. And so it's always been that way for you.
Mm-hmm.
And same here. And so to move to a new work and have a little bit different role, I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah.
But
It was good for me.
yeah, that's good.
And it
Well,
was probably a lot easier for me than a lot of people, like I said, because we already knew y'all and we knew us and Terry, you know, but it was still just a big congregation full of people that, and I still don't know all of them, obviously, but it was good for me.
Well, this is one of those topics that we can get really excited about and make plans and want to start and get involved. And probably a lot of people that are listening already are anyway. But it's also one of those topics that people tend to get their feelings hurt about, and some people can be a little sensitive about, they'll say, nobody has me into their home. Nobody's invited me to go out. Nobody's invited me to the group that gets together on Sunday nights. Nobody, like they can focus on that. And I'm not invalidating that. If that's true, that's unfortunate and that's sad. But at the same time, it's just one of those things where you can be proactive about it. You can, if nobody's doing that for you, you be the one doing that for everybody else.
Right.
And you can start immediately. You don't have to wait. You don't have to have a certain set of circumstances. You can, you don't have to spend a lot of money to have people in your home. You be the one that's the gatherer of people and start having people over. Or people will say, we have people over all the time, but nobody else does it back. Nobody else invites us back into their home. And I think we need to be careful about that too, because that's not why we do it. Mm-hmm. And if it is, then our motives are skewed. Right. It's not about having somebody over, assuming that they're going to return the favor and have us back into their home. And I think Jesus even talks about that, about doing things for people that can't reciprocate and being generous enough and doing it anyway. So it's just one of those things that we can kind of get a bad attitude about sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, like you said, you do the right thing regardless of if someone does the right thing for you.
That's
I was waiting for the 12th. Know what time it is.
Neil wound up our clock, but it's always behind. And so it's going to do 12.
11 minutes behind.
Yes, it is. Anyways, I should have shut it off before we started. I forgot about it.
You were talking about standout memories or when you texted me about this topic. Brian reminded me of one that I didn't really even think about hospitality, but it was so true. It was last year when we were in Israel. It was we were in Jerusalem for Jerusalem Day. And that is the anniversary of the reunification of Jerusalem. And you can do some research on it. I won't spend a whole lot of time on what that is, but it's a tense day. It's a celebration because the Jews they regained control of Jerusalem, but it can be really tense because there's a lot of
politically charged.
Yeah. And so in East Jerusalem and in the Muslim quarter, and a lot of times the Jews will march through the Muslim quarter, which is not something they welcome. But John and I, that was our free day. Everybody has a free day, one of the days during the tour. And we had gone into the old city. And I can't remember, we were coming back. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon. And we had been warned that like at 4:00, they were going to close a lot of the gates and they were going to shut down parts of the city and allow the parade to go through. There was just a huge, heavy police presence. And I don't want anybody to think that it's dangerous because I never felt unsafe, but it's just tense. I admire how they managed to all live in that little area. And for the most part there, it's peaceful. But we were walking back through East Jerusalem to get to our hotel, which was in East Jerusalem, which is more of the Muslim area of the city. And we happened to run into a man named Muhammad, and he's the one that works at the Garden Tomb. He sells candy at the Garden Tomb, and that's a whole nother story about him. He's been there since he was a kid selling candy, and we got to know him. And so every time we're there, we always tell our group, that he's a good one to buy from, and he's just a nice man. he's Muslim. Well, he's Arabic. I don't know what religiously he practices, but he lives in East Jerusalem. But he was coming this way and we were going that way. We were with Brian. And we stopped and greeted him and talked to him for a minute. He said, well, come up with me to my uncle's restaurant. And by this time, the streets were pretty much empty. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of feeling a little bit of the urge to get back to our hotel, just to whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There's probably going to be a little skirmish here and there. And there was. But here's this guy. We don't know him very well. And he's Arabic and they're beautiful people. I don't mean anything like this, but we followed him around the corner and up the stairs to this place we didn't know. And he made us a homemade lemonade. They make it with mint in it.
Yes, I love it.
And he gave us Cokes, and we just sat and we kind of just waited out what was going to happen outside. And his uncle was there, and he was sitting out on it was an upstairs kind of restaurant. And he was sitting out on this little patio, and he was reading the news and watching, kind of looking around. But Brian brought up Muhammad, and he said, that was hospitality. He invited us into his space. But it took a little bit of, not for John or Brian, they were totally okay with it. But I was a little bit like, I really would like to just go back to the hotel. But once we got in there, it was just the neatest thing, because we just sat and we talked about his kids. And we were able to represent Christ to him in a very non-threatening way in his territory. So, opportunities like that are show hospitality too. He showed hospitality to us. We weren't exactly strangers, but we were not, intimates by any stretch of the imagination. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing to think of as hospitality.
And it kind of brings up the flip side of it too, is you had to think about that and determine to accept the hospitality. And when you did, it was gracious. It was a gracious thing to do, and of course you were blessed by it ultimately, but just being willing to step into that situation. And maybe this is a good time to talk about some challenges and what keeps us from being more hospitable, because it kind of made me think about how I know one of the biggest things that I have to overcome is when life gets busy, and you're looking at your planner and what the upcoming week holds. And, maybe there's something going on every night but one. And of course, my first thought is don't schedule anything. We can't have anybody over this week because I need this one night with nothing. I need one night of nothing.
And that's legitimate.
It is legit, but what if that's every week, and you have to, maybe some changes need to be made. I don't know. I'm just saying, I know that's one of the challenges for me. And, we used to do the alphabet thing where we'd have people into our homes on Sunday night based on their last name and what it started with. And Neil keeps saying, we need to start that back up. We need to start that back up. And it's just been hard finding a weekend where nothing's already going, going on and so at some point you go, if we're too busy to have people in our homes, we're too busy. There need to be some changes that are made, but maybe another one is just a little bit level of discomfort in either having people in your home or going to somebody else's home. Maybe that's a part of it.
Yeah. Going to someone's home, especially if you're not a very adventurous eater and don't know what they're going to serve, but I think we can learn something on both sides here to be a little more adventurous and to just try something. And if you are the one hosting and someone doesn't eat it, don't say anything about it. Don't point it out, just let them eat what they want to eat and don't embarrass them by saying anything about it. But I wrote a few things down. Of course, there's the fear of being judged as far as the condition of your home, whether it's messy or whether it's old, an older home that needs some repairs done, or we have a fear of someone seeing us differently, because once you come into someone's home, you just have a different frame of reference. And we might be afraid of what someone will think about us. But to me, have you ever been in anyone's home when you came away with a negative impression of them? I guess there could be sometimes if you're going into someone's home to
Well, one time
to solve a fight or something like
Yeah.
that. If you're counseling someone, and I'm not talking about that, but if someone makes the effort to host you, you're not ever going away thinking, oh, that was rude. I think that's one thing. Sometimes we are messy. And I'm here to say I have really changed in what I think about. I still like to clean up before people come, but I am far less worried about it now. And of course, it is funny because I don't have kids in the house now. And I remember my mom used to like get ready for company a week ahead of time. When I had kids at home, I was like, are you kidding me? I can't do that until about 2 hours before people come, because the kids will just come in and wreck whatever I've just done. But I have grown to not worry about if it's dusty or if I don't like it. It kind of goes against my grain, but I want people to be comfortable. I don't want them to come in and think, oh, her house is so clean and tidy, she could never come to mine, because then she would think bad of me. So that's one of the things that I guess I think about. One of the most bizarre.
Isn't there something about you when you walk into somebody's home that's slightly not perfect that makes you relax?
Yeah.
Instantly relax. Oh, this is a real person.
And
this is a real
opposite
person.
is
I can
true.
relax and be myself. And, and if that's the case, like you're saying, the opposite is true. If everything, there's not a hair out of place,
You're
and
like,
the whole, it just,
I can't sit down.
Or hope they never come to my house.
Yeah. And I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing and I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but if someone does something so perfectly, you think I could never do that. So you don't even try.
Yeah.
But one of the most bizarre things I've heard is I don't have enough seats. And I guess maybe because I did so much with teenagers and, they'll sit anywhere on the floor, wherever. So I just never, ever did think, oh, I know people will go, okay, I have 1, 2, 6 chairs there and 4 chairs in here. So I can only have 10. I mean, obviously it's better to have a place for everyone to sit, but there's just a lot of different kind of dinner parties or whatever you can have that are finger foods. And I imagine we'll talk about that in a minute, thinking about what you serve, if it's easy to eat when you're not sitting down, or if you have to sit in an awkward place. But those, I think when you don't feel like Joanna Gaines or whoever you want to say, as far as entertaining, it's, I think in a bad way, those home shows have made us feel self-conscious about our own homes, and that's not great.
Yeah. Or just social media in general.
Highlight reel.
Everything. Yeah. Highlight reel. We're comparing our behind the scenes to their highlight reel, and everything's perfect and posed.
Yeah.
And out there. And, the Pinterest fails, the nailed it. We see it. It looks great. Surely we can do that. And somehow it just didn't my charcuterie board didn't turn out like that.
Yeah. But, we love the nailed it. Of course, it means that they didn't nail it.
Exactly.
But we love that. That makes us laugh and it makes us feel comfortable. So if you do that and have someone over and you didn't nail it, do it anyway.
That's right. It'll be a memory.
And you can laugh with people about it.
Don't take yourself too seriously, for sure, because they'll pick up on that stress and it'll make everybody uncomfortable. And I think I shared this with you, not maybe last week before we hit record or something, but we had a group of people over that was all family. But Emily had said to me when we were leaving, "Are you okay?" And did I share this with you or Neil?
You told me.
And I said, "Yeah, why?" And she goes, "I don't know. You seem distracted or something." And I kind of I won't go into all the details, but it wasn't quite right. Things weren't going quite right. And I was distracted by all that. And I wanted everybody to be okay and everybody to be happy and things to go like they're supposed to. And I really hated that I showed that on my face.
Yeah.
And I should have been more concerned about just greeting and welcoming everybody as they were there and enjoying being with them, instead of being so concerned about everything being just right and then that showing up on my face, And I think that's another thing that you might burn something might not turn it. You might not have enough of something, You think you've made enough and you haven't. You might end up making something and you find out your guests are all allergic to it, and it's okay. It's okay. Ultimately, you can figure something out. Just enjoy the people that they're there. And that's what they'll leave remembering, is how you made them feel. Not.
I caught marshmallows on fire one time in the oven.
Oh, no.
Had a cast iron skillet trying to make s'mores dip. And I guess I was trying to do too many things because I put them under the broiler and then I went to do something else. You can't do that with the broiler and marshmallows. Is bad. So, I mean, we laugh about it. Still have people that laugh about it. So don't do that.
I found this list of things, and it was about I forget how they titled it. It's something about secrets to getting rid of that awkward gathering, the awkward dinner party. And when people walk in and they're kind of looking around and they don't know what to do, and
icebreaker kind of.
No, they're not really icebreakers. It's just you as a host is what you can do to alleviate that, just really simple things. And some of them are just common sense, but I thought it was really good. And so, like, the first one is play music. And that's why I wanted to say, remind me that we had this conversation, because you do that.
Yeah. Every
time I've been to your home, you've had some kind of music playing in the background. And I rarely remember to do that. And I think it's just because I listen to music some, but most of the time, if I'm in my house, it's quiet. I just listen to nature or whatever. And but they said that music fills in the gaps and helps people feel at ease. It just relaxes them when they walk in. And so that was number one, play music. And I don't think it's talking about like dinner music.
No, you can pick it
classical music.
Or if you have older people, you can find, make it appropriate to
create a playlist, play a playlist that's going to make everybody have a good time. And then number two is have a greeter. And that's just somebody that's there. Make sure they're meeting everybody at the door as they come, because you might be doing last minute things in the kitchen, but just having somebody there just to welcome, to smile, thank you for coming, tell them where to put their coat or bag, when they walk in. So that one's kind of common sense. But number three, I loved this one. It was give directions.
Yeah.
And
where the bathroom is.
Yeah. It said that people love to know what's expected of them.
Yeah.
Instead of walking in and then awkwardly not knowing what to do. But if you say, tell them what they can do next and take the guessing game out of it, is what it said. It said, go ahead and grab a drink. Help yourself to these appetizers. Check with so-and-so in the kitchen. She's going to want to say hi to you. So you're just giving them something to do, some direction when they get there. And it's just supposed to make people relax. Number four is give them a job. And this is the one that got me. Because how people will say, what can I do? Or is there something I can do to help? And a lot of times I try really, really hard just to have everything ready when people get there, so that all we have to do is like pour drinks and sit down and get started. And part of the reason is I'm not a very good multitasker. And if I'm trying to do something in the kitchen and talk to people, it's just not.
You're going to burn the marshmallows?
I'm going to burn the marshmallows. But this says, and it's so true, because I know that for myself when I go to somebody else's house. We all love to be useful and to feel like we're a part of the action. Have someone toss the salad. Have someone else slice the meat. Have someone stir the soup, or whatever it is. It said intentionally leave something undone so that you can give people something to do when they get there. And it said include as many people as possible. Having a job makes people feel like they belong, and it makes them feel special.
That's great.
And I know that's so true, because when I show up and I say, is there something I can do to help? And they actually say yes, it does make me feel that way. Yeah. It does relax me instantly, and give me something to do. But I tend to say, I think everything's ready, what would you like to drink? So I thought that was a really good tip. And then the last one was the seating chart, which I thought was also interesting. I typically don't plan where everybody's sitting, because I think I want them to sit where they want to sit. I don't want to choose who they sit by. And that's always been my thinking. But this said, plan it ahead of time, because there's always awkwardness when everyone goes to the table to take a seat.
That's
there's
true.
Always that. If somebody says, where do you want us to sit? Oh, sit wherever you like. Everybody walks in there and just stands there looking at each other for a minute, and then
that's great. I like that.
And then they have to figure it out. But if you just figured out ahead of time, I've got you here and you here, everybody instantly relaxes and they just sit where they're told to sit. So I thought those were just good practical things, that make sense. And
would you always want to sit by Neil in a situation like that? Or how would you feel about being put, if there was like place cards and your name was next to someone you didn't know and Neil's at the other end of the table?
That would not bother me at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would feel more comfortable being next to John. He's just more of the conversationalist than I am. But I mean, I guess it depends on the size of the table. I'm thinking of the Queen of England and the 100 people, but usually more like 6 or 8.
Yeah. So I've been in people's homes where they have all the women on one side of the table and all the men on the other side of the table. So the women can talk and the men can talk.
Yeah.
And I love sitting by Neil, but that's fun too.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't bother me. But anyway, I thought those were really good practical tips. And some of the things that have been showing up in my Pinterest board, and these are just fun. I hate to share them on here because we probably have Lehman Avenue listeners and I want to use these, but have a recipe exchange with some ladies. They were talking about you make the dish and then you bring the recipe and everybody trades recipes. A book exchange party. I thought was fun. A cute idea. Yeah. One of them was called Pancakes and Pajamas for dinner, a blessings party.
You'd have to be specific on what kind of pajamas.
Oh, for sure. One was
what was the last one you said?
A blessings party.
So
it was a focus on the little activities throughout the evening, focused on, the different ways that you've been blessed by others or blessed by God or, whatever. It was real, you could look it up and read up on it. Sips and sweets. I'm just picturing like you're sending out a little text or invitation or whatever, come over for sips and sweets, and then the last one I'll share was Girlfriends and Gratitude Fall Luncheon, which I thought was a cute idea too. So there's all kinds of things like that you can get ideas for. And so what else got?
We did decades, kind of like what you're talking about, having everyone who, with the last name starting with B or C or whatever, but we did decades. If you're in your 50s, or if your spouse is in their 50s, come over. And we went, I think we made it all the way through, and so we had to combine a few because there weren't as many 80s, so we did 70s and 80s together. But that was a lot of fun. The only bad thing about that is you're not necessarily mixing people. It's a lot of people that know each other, but there's a level of comfort there and they enjoy being together. So you could do that and then mix it up and do. In fact, it'd be kind of neat to do, the 20s and the 70s.
Yeah, that'd be
so
fun.
Depending on how big your congregation is or your group of people.
I thought it would.
And it was fun. I thought it would be fun to do like a cooking class, and it would depend on what your home is like. I'm trying to think you could do that from your bar. Just a demonstration. It would be maybe smaller, but I've got this big bar here, and I thought, I'm trying to think who has kind of a specialty that they like to make, and just say, okay, Catherine is going to show us how to make egg rolls. So then I could set up some chairs and everybody could watch her do it and then make your own egg roll or whatever. I thought that would be fun. I've not done that before, but I want to think more about that. There's been lots of times we just do conversation on the deck and we have a little fire pit out there and we make s'mores or whatever. Of course, when it's 110 degrees, you tend to not want to do that, but that might be more of a fall winter activity. I know lots of people that do mystery dinners, murder mystery dinners. And those are fun.
I've attended one or two.
Yeah. There's scavenger hunts for kids that are fun to do. And then, something we used to do a lot when I was a kid were themed parties. We had tacky parties. Remember those? I can't see people doing that as much now, but maybe we need to bring them back, a retro tacky party. A twist to that, which I thought was very not nice, was you tell one couple it's a tacky party and tell everybody else that it's a formal party. And so it's that's not very nice, but I remember them doing that one time too, a couple that have a great sense of humor. And so they were the only ones dressed tacky. But we would have 50s parties. So you'd wear a poodle skirt and things like that. Nowadays, you probably would do more like 80s parties, stuff like that. So you dress like you're from the 80s. And then one of my favorite things, I know I brought it up before, but table topics, those little cubes that have their conversation starters. But if you go look at their website, they're not cheap, but they come with a lot of them. But they have them for kids, holiday conversations, like the one that is titled Pop Culture. It shows, if you go look at their website, it shows sample cards. And one of the cards says, what was your most embarrassing piece of 80s clothing that you owned? Stuff like that. And then there's a family one. There's one that the whole box is about what would you do? And for example, if someone pocket dialed you, would you listen to their conversation or would you hang up?
Yes.
Yeah. And then they have one that's for getting married. They have one that's called Best Things Ever. They have one that's book club, which sounds fun. And one of the sample questions was, who would you want to play you in a movie version of your life? So, it's just fun. They're not the usual boring questions. There's a lot of fun questions that they have. And it's good for you to go through them before you pull one out of the box, because we've come across some slightly inappropriate ones before that you don't want to read in front of everybody.
Well, it can just be really simple, but the point is it makes people, again, it's that whole, there's a little bit of direction there. So it makes people relax and you don't have to worry about the awkward silence or whatever. Like we having people, when you invite them over, say, we're asking everybody to wear red and be prepared to talk about a favorite book or it's like, tell them ahead of time that we're all going to do this. Yeah. And then they know what to expect. We're going to eat, we're going to do this. And that's the evening, it just kind of takes some of the pressure off.
Knowing what to expect, that's kind of one of my deals. I like to know what to expect. And sometimes that makes you uneasy if you don't know what to expect. So I like that. And also if you're the type of person that doesn't feel real comfortable taking charge of things or being, I don't know if leader is the right word in the situation, but invite someone who is and ask them to kind of help direct the conversation or to just, sort of make sure that they know that they can jump in if the conversation gets a little stilted or whatever. So we can find people that would be helpful in that kind of situation.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. What about meal ideas? Did you have, I know you probably have some.
Well, I really didn't think about a bunch of different meal ideas. I just was going to share this one that's real quick and easy for the summertime, since we're in the summer. And it's chicken tortellini salad, but it's a completely different type of salad. It's so easy. You get a rotisserie chicken and a bag of that fresh tortellini pasta, that cheese tortellini, and romaine hearts, the romaine lettuce, and a wedge of Parmesan cheese, and then a bottle of Caesar dressing. And all you do, you cook the tortellini pasta according to package directions, and then drain it, and you can run a little cool water over it if you want to cool it down a little bit. But you just, in your big bowl, you put your cooked pasta, you put big chunks of that rotisserie chicken in there, like the big chunks of white chicken, juicy chicken breast, drop that all in there. And then you put your chopped romaine lettuce on top of that. And then at the last minute, right before you serve, you just drizzle on a little of that Caesar salad dressing, toss it all together, and then top it with big Parmesan shavings.
That sounds delicious.
And it is so delicious, but it is so easy. And it comes together like that. And everybody that's ever had it just loves it. And I like it because the romaine stays cold and crisp. But I like to serve the chicken still slightly warm so that it's just kind of a contrast. You've got this, it feels like a hearty dish, but it also feels light, light enough for summer. But it's really good with, thin slices of garlic bread or whatever, and maybe serve it with a lemon icebox pie. That's like the perfect summer company meal.
That does sound good. I didn't really come up. I missed that memo about the easy summer recipe, but I have a friend that often would go to HEB or wherever and get a pre-made spinach dip. And she would buy one of those long, thin baguettes. I don't even know if it's called baguette, but it's French bread, super long. And she would slice it real, real thin and then toast those
Mm-hmm.
and then put it around the spinach dip. And that's spinach dip in the summertime is nice and refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking of meal ideas. I wrote
Mm-hmm.
several down, not necessarily summer, but just meal ideas in general. I think Italian tends to be easy because it's kind of a casserole. So it's like a meal in one bowl, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
that I shared the recipe for that spinach
Yes.
pasta, and it's really good. I made it last night. But you can serve it with a salad, a bag salad even. And I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
there's some, they're getting better. Some of them just taste like bag salad, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
You know, when you go to a
But,
restaurant and get a salad and it's a bag salad, I don't
Mm-hmm.
like that. But if you're in a hurry, you know, it helps. And bread. So Italian, some kind of Italian lasagna or whatever, and a salad and bread, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked a lot about when Wayne and Tammy were at Bear Valley, and they would just have cereal nights at their home.
Yeah, cereal
And
supper. Yeah,
we've
everybody
done
bring
that
a
with,
box of your favorite cereal.
yeah, we've done
Yeah.
that with students a lot, and they love it, you know. And there's the weird people that like to mix all the different cereals
Mm-hmm.
in their bowl, which looks gross to me, but you know, they love it. They like to do it. And then I thought about the taco buildup, you know, where you just have either tortilla shells or flour tortillas, whatever, and the meat and cheese and avocado and salsa and tomatoes and lettuce. You know, it takes a little prep getting it ready, but then everybody can make it the way they like it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not serving it where someone's going to have to pick something out. They can make it how they like it. We've done build your own pizza before with naan, and you can just blend some San Marzano tomatoes are the best. And you don't even have to add spices to it. That's your sauce, and have all the toppings out. And then you can do it on the grill outside if you like. And I love pizza on the grill or heat in the oven.
Mm-hmm.
Those pre-made sliders are always good. So what y'all did at Ladies' Day a couple of years ago when I was there is the soup bowl. I loved that. And so I've done that several times since then. Where did y'all get those bread bowls? Do you remember, or is somebody else
Vivian,
is in charge?
Yeah, Vivian Grice can tell you.
Okay.
Vivian, she listens.
I've looked, of course, I'm not in Bowling Green, but soup bowls are fun. And who doesn't like a good bread bowl with soup in it? Charcuterie boards are fun, and they're fun to make, even if you don't make them look super fancy. But everybody loves picking on a charcuterie board. Yeah. There's a lot of good frozen things, even at Costco. Have you ever had the chicken cordon bleu from Costco or Sam's?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, they're not cooked, so you have to bake them for 35 or 40 minutes, but they look fancy, and you can, you know, serve them on a bed of lettuce or whatever. They have good frozen pizzas there. You can do just dessert and coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think I told you that we've been buying that frozen cod.
Yeah.
The
In
battered
fact, we
cod.
had some this week.
Yeah, for fish tacos. And that's pretty good.
Yeah, we had that on Sunday. I pulled it out and I said, here's a Kathy thing. So we enjoyed those. It was good. But depending on what kind of dinner party you're having, if you don't have enough seats for people, think about something that you can eat or hold on your lap that's not going to spill out or whatever. So, you know, take that into account. But those are just some things I thought of.
Those are great. And sometimes when we're having a big crowd over, we'll ask everybody to bring a platter of your favorite sandwiches. And then we'll just provide, you know, like chips, cut up veggies, usually simple desserts like Rice Krispie treats and cookies, you know, chocolate chip cookies or something like that. And that's always fun because it seems like there's always different sandwiches that are unexpected. You know, some are hot, some are cold. They're all good. So that's an easy idea too for having a big crowd.
My niece, Emily, well, my nephew is Josh, his wife, Emily. So she's my niece-in-law, had us one time for grilled cheese and tomato soup. And she had made the tomato soup homemade, but then she made a bunch of grilled cheeses and just sliced them and, you know, made everybody picked up however many slices that they wanted and dip it in the tomato soup. And that was fun. That's kind of a winter kind of thing to do.
That would be delicious.
I love grilled cheese and tomato soup.
Oh man, me too. All right. Well, that was good. Any other things you want to say on this topic before we move into our random question?
Well, I had something I was going to read. I thought was neat from this Every Moment Holy book. And it's a book of liturgies, and we don't necessarily use those often, but I love to read them because it just kind of makes you, it's an interesting book. It has things to read, even for the ritual of morning coffee. They have something to read. It's for the husband and wife at the close of the day. It's just something to make you a little more intentional and make you draw God into your conversation and to think about how he's involved in your life. And there was one in here, a liturgy to begin a purposeful gathering. Oh. And, it's not something we're going to say. This would be awkward, I think, for us to gather around and have people repeat some of the stuff. But for me to read ahead of time and maybe share with John, or even sometime I may print it out and let everyone have a copy and just to think about it. But to begin a purposeful gathering, says, "It is you, O Lord, who have so gathered us from our various places, and you alone who know our hearts and our needs. Among us are some who arrive anxious, some who are lonely, some who suffer pain or sorrow. May we in our joys find grace to enter the sorrow of others. Among us are some who arrive rejoicing, hearts made light by good news, good health, glad anticipation. May we in our sorrows find grace to embrace the joys of others. Let us prize these moments and care for one another deeply, for each of us and our relationships to one another are precious and fleeting." I just thought that was neat to read before we gather together with people to remember why we're doing it.
Well, and you said something about maybe making copies. And I was thinking of another idea that I read that I forgot to share was when you invite people ahead of time, ask them to send you something like their favorite quote or their favorite Bible verse, and then use that as the place cards around the table. And when people get there, they have to walk around and read them and figure out whose is whose.
I love that.
So they'll they'll recognize their own, but then they have to try and guess everybody else's. Plus, they get to read the scriptures or the quotes or whatever. So I thought that was a cute idea.
Yeah, that is a neat idea. I like that.
Okay, so our random question is something that somebody else had asked a while back, and it was, what is your morning routine? So you go first.
Well, it's not very fancy. When I get up, I think about how different it is from when my kids were at home and it was crazy and frenzy and all that. But now we get up and I go straight to make coffee, and I do a pour over every morning with my Chemex. I'm a little bit of a picky about how my coffee is. And so that takes 10 to 15 minutes to make my coffee. And John is always like, "Oh, how can you have to do math because you have to measure your coffee and then multiply it to have the right amount of water." So I have to do math in the morning. It helps me wake up.
Don't you need coffee to do math?
I have a calculator on my phone, so I'm good. Okay. And every time I think about not doing it, I think, I can't. Well, I've mentioned before, Rob Lewin is the one that introduced me to the pour over, and I just haven't been able to enjoy regular Keurig or whatever as much as,
you've been ruined. Yeah,
I have been ruined. Thank you, Rob. Yes. So I make coffee and then I do Wordle every morning. And that's kind of one of the first things I do, and usually turn on the Today Show. And I don't watch a lot of TV, and I know it's the liberal media, but I like their human interest stories, and I look to see how hot it's going to be that day. And that usually John's pulling out his laptop and he's answering emails, and we sit together and just have coffee, and it's quiet for a while. And then that's kind of our morning ritual. Not super exciting.
I like it. Ours is very similar. No, it's not really. There is coffee.
Yeah, there has to be coffee.
So Neil gets our coffee in the morning. We get up early. Sorry. And we don't have the fancy pour over, but we have switched to just using whole milk, and he steams it. And so it's kind of a little fun thing that we do in the morning now. Like sometimes he just does it in the mason jar and shakes it extra long so that when he pours it, it kind of creates a shape. So when he brings it to me, I say, "Thanks for and I look at the shape that it's made on top of the coffee. And it's, like this morning it was penguin, So.
Okay, you figured it out. So it's just we have coffee and whole milk.
And mine, he adds sugar to his.
Okay.
But mine's coffee and whole milk. So I'm drinking coffee. We both stay in the bed for that because we like to look out the window at the birds, and we both have our laptops open, and I'm typically doing my quote in the morning, and that's when I answer emails, messages, stuff like that. I don't really like to check those throughout the day, all day. So I try to do that all in the morning, and then make the bed. And that's when I'm like, wash my face, brush my teeth, all that kind of stuff. And in the summertime, I go straight out to the garden. So we're bringing in things, pulling weeds, whatever. We just spend some time out there in the morning doing that. And then we have breakfast. So that's when we come in. And then after that is when I do Bible study and like what's on the planner for the day. And I kind of straighten up, get a load of laundry going and get on with the day. So, but that's typically every morning. We've kind of become creatures of habit, and now that the cow will be coming, Lord willing, in a couple of weeks.
We'll be milking.
We'll be adding that to the morning routine. Yeah.
I can't wait to see how that goes and hear about it. That's going to be neat.
I'm sure it'll be very interesting.
Yeah. Well, some people want to start right away with their Bible study, and I think that's great, but I need a little bit more brain space to do that, because it just comes to me more later in the day. And I don't have a routine about that. I do it every day, but sometimes it's in the evening before bed. And often it is before bed. John is always like, I don't know how he falls asleep on the couch at night. We call it his napetizer because it's pre-bed nap, like fall asleep on the couch. But I have to be completely in bed. Like mentally, I have to make sure my teeth are brushed and my face is washed and I'm settled. I've had my medicine before I can get in the bed and go to sleep. That he can go to sleep regardless. He can get back up, brush his teeth, whatever. So funny.
Yeah,
people have different routines.
I'm the same way with Bible study, and I've read and I love the idea that as soon as you wake up, the word should be the first thing you're taking in. But I'm kind of the same way. I'm just a little bit too groggy. And usually I like to wait until Neil's gone and the house is quiet and I've got everything just the way I want it. And I pull out all my things and,
I don't think anybody can say that you should do it this way in the morning. You should start your day that way. I know that, that's a matter of opinion. It's not a matter of sin. And I know that my day is centered around God, regardless of whether I start my day with my Bible open, because I know that he's on my mind regardless.
Yeah. And it's the same way with workouts. They'll say you should work out first thing in the morning and before you eat, blah, blah, blah. And I don't get a good workout in when I do that. And I don't want to do it. I know that sounds whatever, but I just don't want to. But if I wait until mid-morning, I get a way better workout. It's more, I feel like I have way more energy. I'm more motivated to do it. That's just the way I operate.
Everybody's different.
Everybody's different. That's right. Well, great conversation. I enjoyed it. And thanks for the nice things that you said. Also, I wasn't expecting that. That's very sweet.
Well, you can send me money later.
I'll do it.
No, I meant every word. You do have a knack for hospitality. So I'm thankful for it.
You're a good friend. I enjoyed talking to you. And ladies, we thank you so much for listening in. Please do visit us over on Looking Up on Facebook and tell us your hospitality tips or thoughts that you have. We already shared company meals. That was fun. By the way, I'm glad you put that on there, Carla. But
we got some good recipes from it.
We did. So we look forward to hearing you. And until next time,
keep looking up.
Enjoyed it. Love you.
Bye.